So this presentation is going to give you an overall view on the priority setting process, and especially the context of this process, the goals of this process, the principles used, and the methodology used. And during this presentation, I'll present the different steps of the process, but I will not yet go into the details of each step, and I will not yet explain how to use the digivoting systems, because this will happen a little later this afternoon. So this is only an overall view of the process at this time. In terms of context, the CRP2 proposal, which is the document which describes the CRP2 research, has been written at a global level. And now, in order to implement this program in the most useful way for the different regions, we need to be determining specific regional research priorities. So as Mark said, what we're doing today is the first of 4 regional priority setting workshops, and we'll have 3 other workshops for the 3 other main regions. The goal, as Mark said, is to guide the CRP2 allocation, funding allocation, and the implementation of this program in this region in order to reflect regional priorities. Let me go into the principle of this priority setting process. There are 4 main principles. The first one is participation of regional experts. This is why all of you are here today. We believe that you are the best persons to tell us what the research priorities for CRP2 should be for this region. The second principle is transparency. We want to make this priority setting process as transparent as possible. The digivoting system will help us do this because the results of the voting will be available immediately, mostly. And the results that will not be available immediately, we will post on the conference website after the conference. Third principle, we're going to use a standardized measurement procedure with each CRP2 research area, each sub-theme of CRP2 being assigned scores between 1 and 5. And lastly, we want to keep this process as simple and efficient as possible. I will now go into the methodology. This first slide has 2 key points. The first one, and Mark already mentioned it, is that the priority setting that we're doing today is going to happen at the sub-theme level. So you may remember from Mark's presentation that CRP2 has 3 themes and 10 sub-themes. So what you're doing today is setting priorities between the 10 sub-themes. The second key point is that the scores that you will assign to the 10 sub-themes of CRP2 are going to be based on their contribution to 4 objectives, which are reduce rural poverty, increase food security, nutrition and health, improve sustainability of natural resources, and enhance opportunities for and participation of women. These are the 4 objectives that we're going to use to evaluate the contribution of the CRP2 sub-themes. Now, why do we use this link between objectives, and instead of only assigning 1 score to each sub-theme? Well, this is because this methodology is going to provide insights into why you think that one sub-theme is more important than another sub-theme. This slide gives a little more detail about the 3 main steps of the priority setting process. During this first step, step 1, you will assign a weight in percent to each of the 4 objectives that I've just shown you. And these weights will have to add up to 100%. The results of this will be available immediately, and because you will use digivoting for this, and it will be average weights, average percentage for these 4 objectives. In step 2 of the process, we will break up into 4 groups. Each group will work on one of the 4 objectives, and you will be able to choose which objective you want to work on. In this step, within each group, you will assign a score between 1 and 5 to each of the 10 CRP2 subthemes based on their contribution to the objective that your group is working on. So for instance, let's say I'm in group 1. Group 1 will be working on the objective reduce rural poverty. So if I'm in group 1, what I'll be doing is assigning a score between 1 and 5 to the 10 CRP2 subthemes based on how much I think each of these subthemes contributes to reducing rural poverty. Based on the results from step 1 and step 2, after the meeting, we will be able to compute final values for the assessment of the CRP2 subthemes by multiplying the weights of the objectives obtained from step 1 by the scores of the subthemes relative to each of the objectives obtained in step 2. At the end of this meeting, everybody will come back to the plenary room, and we will have a last round of voting, during which we'll ask you to take a broader view on the subthemes. Contrary to step 2, where you will have worked only on one of the 4 objectives, for this last round, we will ask each of you to take a broader view and assign a score on the subthemes based on their overall contribution to the 4 objectives. In terms of tools, step 1 and step 3 will be done using the digivoting cards that were given to you, distributed to you. And step 2 we will use paper. You will be in the breakup groups, and you will have a handout for you to assign the scores. This is it for the overall view of the process. And as I said, I will give more details later. Before you vote, I will explain in details each step and, of course, how to use the digivoting cards.